Confidently controversial. Confidently controversial. Confidently controversial.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Confidently Controversial.
Woohoo!
I am one of your hosts, Emily Paul, and here with me, as always, is the lovely and talented
Kimberly Tweed.
Yes. So we are here. Our show is about re-looking at movies of our youth, kind of looking at them with adult eyes.
Children of the 80s.
Children of the 80s, to kind of see, okay, did these movies age well? Let's look at the impact these movies had on us, because as children of the 80s, we both watched a lot of movies, as many other children of the 80s did as well. So, in each episode, each of us take turns selecting a different movie that we want to see, and then we talk about it a little bit, and then we watch it, and then we talk about it a little bit more. So, Kim has no idea the movie that we're watching.
Very excited to find out what it is.
Okay. So, this movie came out in 1986.
Okay.
Get
1986.
There. We were 9 years old. We were 9 years old.
We're wearing our bright green. Got it.
We're there. Okay. So this movie stars, I don't know if I want to go into its stars yet, because I want to build the excitement a little bit more.
It's Bill.
Okay. Does the name Hideo Takamine mean anything to you?
Oh, I think so.
Hideo Takamine?
Maybe.
Okay, because it means something to me and my family. This is a movie that we watched a ton in my house. So, I don't know if I explained before, but I'm a middle child. I have an older sister, younger brother. We're all like 2 years apart. So we all watched these movies together. This was a movie on heavy rotation in our house, for sure. It stars the always amazing Tate Capshaw of Married to Steven Spielberg fame.
Sure.
A young Joaquin Phoenix, but when he was known as Leaf, and we will get into that a little bit more. We have Leah Thompson.
Okay.
And we have the late, great Kelly Preston. Do you know the movie that I'm talking about? If I say Tate Donovan to you, do you know who that is? He was on Friends.
I know who Tate Donovan is. Love Potion number 9.
Yes.
Tate Donovan.
Yes, that's Tate Donovan.
Okay.
Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
I'm talking about Space Camp.
Oh, excellent. Wow. I
Okay.
haven't seen this movie since I was a very small child. Probably since I was 9 years old. Or
Really?
Yeah, like I really have no strong concept of anything about this movie.
Was this one that you watched a lot as a kid, or
No.
no? Okay.
It was not.
This
It
was
not.
a big one in my house. And as I started kind of going into it and looking at it a little bit more and kind of pulling my facts, I realized some things about the time, and also just thought about the impact that this movie also had. This is the first movie that we're watching as a part of this that I think was directed towards kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely a kid's movie.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not the people were actually adults when they were playing kids. They were supposed to be kids.
Okay.
I will say, so just a little brief overview of what the movie's about for those.
Wait, can I say something?
You may.
So these kids go to this space camp and they accidentally really go to space?
Exactly.
Okay.
So this movie is American kids go to space camp for the holidays and end up getting launched into space. That's the whole movie.
Wow.
Goodbye. Yes, that's the whole thing. Now, I had never heard of space camp, as I think most Americans had not heard of space camp before this movie.
No.
But after this movie, it became
a
a thing.
Yeah.
If you recall the show Double Dare,
I do.
it was always a prize on Double Dare.
Yeah,
like when you did the big physical challenge at the end. Like it was like, and you get to go to space camp.
Yeah.
There is still one of the space camps is still going
In Texas?
today. The one where they shot this movie is still like a thing that's happening. So it's, to me, like, I don't know. I think about the whole thing with space camp. I don't think I ever wanted to go. Did you want to go to space camp?
Oh, probably not. It sounds athletic.
I think my issue with space camp was, and something that, like, when I was trying to, I knew we were going to talk about this movie. You didn't.
Right.
But I was reflecting a lot about it, and I was like, I don't think that I did want to go. Why didn't I want to go? And I think because of this movie, one of the things I thought about a lot in this movie was that you have your kids that are launched into space,
Sure.
right? And they're the ones who get to be in the ship. But for all intents and purposes, it seems like they're the only group that does. And the other groups are like mission control. Like, I don't know what those other groups are doing, but it doesn't seem as fun. So I always thought like, oh, I'd be in like the nerdy group that's doing math or something. So yeah,
Not
it seemed
math.
all very...
You wouldn't be in the math group.
I
trust
would
me.
be. Now, this, I did not know, which I found very interesting about it. So, this movie did not do well in the box office.
Okay.
It lost money. And the reason for that is because its release date was pushed back because of the Challenger explosion.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah, that was what, 84?
I think so. It was like, I want to say it was either... I don't know. We can definitely look that up, but
Okay.
it was impacted, and because it was supposed to be released. They held off on it because of the Challenger explosion, which I was also thinking about that. And I remember, what's your memories of the Challenger explosion? Because we were both the same age. We were young when it happened.
So I feel like I have a memory that may not be a real memory. Because I feel like I was in school.
You weren't in school.
Because it was like a Saturday or something.
It was
right?
a snow day.
A snow day. Okay. See,
Right.
that's the thing. Like I very much associate it. There was a substitute teacher at our school named Mrs. Brown.
Oh, I love Mrs. Brown. She was the best.
And for some reason in my brain, I associate it with her
Okay.
and the cafeteria / gym at the
Okay.
elementary number 1 school.
Okay.
And like gymnastic mats.
Okay.
Those are all things that come to my brain when you say Challenger disaster.
So, because and if anyone's interested in this topic, there's a great episode of My Favorite Murder where they talk about the Challenger explosion, which they really go into it and talk a lot about why it happened and everything else. And I would highly recommend you go and listen to that episode of that podcast. I'm sure there's a lot of other information online. My recollection is we were home because it was a snow day, which makes sense because it was part of the reason why this whole thing happened had to do with the temperature and that it was colder than it was supposed to be. So I remember being home and I remember watching it on my TV at home, but like I don't remember being super like upset.
Right.
Like I remember being like, well, what happened? Because like when we were younger, the space program was huge. I don't know if it is for kids these days growing up.
I don't know.
But like we used to watch them all the time. If a space shuttle was going up in the air, we were definitely watching it. And I remember there's always a lot like the rockets fall off like at certain points. Like there's always things that are happening.
Well, that's what I think. I would think that as maybe you were 6, 7-year-old child, you wouldn't know what it's supposed to look like.
No.
So fire in the sky, that big ball that happened or whatever,
Right.
you wouldn't have been like, oh, that's unusual. Because you wouldn't know what it was supposed to look like.
Right, and I feel like there was still a countdown going on. Like, it was a very surreal thing. My parents probably had to field a lot of questions that day.
Well,
is what I'm
remember,
thinking.
it was a big deal because there was a teacher on there. So it was very big in the
Yes.
schools. Christine
Yes.
McCullough.
Yes.
There was a teacher, and I think they were trying to... I think that, it was probably like a PR thing. Like,
Right.
let's get kids interested in space.
Yes, we'll send a teacher.
We'll send a teacher. They'll pay attention to that. The schools will watch it. It will be a thing.
Yeah, there was probably like nationwide curriculum that had to do with it, which is why we were so invested in the entire thing.
Yeah, and then to have this thing,
And
fail.
so if you think
in a
about
horrible
this,
way.
right, and if you think about this movie, it's about normal people without those skills going into space as well. So it definitely, there's an overlap. So we'll definitely get into that.
I would like to
after
see
we watch
NASA's
it.
PR plan at the time.
I know. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. The other thing I want to talk about is Joaquin Phoenix. So this was his debut film.
Okay.
And he was known as Leaf at the time. So
Interesting.
I did look up, I wanted to know a little bit more about that.
Okay.
And when that shift changed. So his real name is Joaquin. His real name is Joaquin Raphael Bottom is their family last name.
Okay.
The whole family changed the last name from Bottom to Phoenix, which probably a good move.
Upgrade.
Definite upgrade. Now, on his Wikipedia page, it says that it seemed to imply that he decided to go by leaf because he was spending a lot of time outdoors raking leaves.
Okay. Sure. I wanted to change my name to Barbie at the time because I spent a lot of time.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to me. I wonder if he had an older brother, River, that most people know, who was definitely just very, very
the star
attractive.
of the family.
The star of the family. So I'm wondering if they weren't like, oh, Joaquin might be a little too much.
The nature element of the whole thing.
Let's go with another nature name. Yeah. They don't know how to pronounce Joaquin, so
was River his real name?
I believe so. I didn't do any research on River because he's not in the movie.
Come on, Emily.
We'll watch a River Phoenix. Oh, I just thought of a good River Phoenix movie. Ah! All right, so we're going to watch this movie. I believe that, is his name James Scarrett is in this as well?
The picket fences guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's in this movie as well. Let's just talk for a minute, like this movie specifically. Okay. I associate a lot of anxiety with this movie.
Okay.
I feel like the thing I'm wondering about when going back in and looking at it, because there's a scene in this movie that had a very big impact on me as a kid, and it's when Leah Thompson, who wants to be the pilot, I think, she has to get through this certain like battery of tests that I guess all astronauts do. I don't know. So one of the tests is she's in this like spinning gyroscopy thing, and she's got a controller, and she has to balance it so that she stops spinning. And for all intents and purposes, it seems awful. Like, it seems really scary. She's spinning around like crazy, and she can't do it. And she's really trying. And then you have Tate Capshaw, who's like kind of being a little bit of, I don't think she's being a jerk, but she's definitely like a stern person. And she's like, come on, Kate, you can do this. And she's really like shameful to her that she can't do it. I don't know. Like, that produces a lot of anxiety for me. And also, you know my feelings about space.
Yes, it scares you.
I do not like outer space at all. I was trying to think, like, could that be in any way connected to this movie? I don't think that it is, because my fear of space is really more about, like,
aliens.
Well, aliens, and there's a lot out there that we don't know, Kim. It's very big.
But you love Star Wars.
Okay.
That takes place in space, I understand.
But we're not going to think, like, that's not real space. Like, real space is kind of scary. But anyway.
Well, I definitely remember that gyroscope thing. I mean, I associate that with, like, pretty much the only thing that astronauts have to do is spin around in that thing and, like, not throw up or something. So I feel like they must have shown that a lot, either in the commercial or... It was like, I don't know. I really feel like those things were a thing at the time.
I think so. Maybe that's why everyone wanted to go to space camp, was to be in a gyroscope.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Why not?
I don't know. It seemed like fun, but it's very stressful for me. And then, of course, like, there's like an error that happens where they get sent up into space, and that... Not really an error. I think a robot makes it happen, but AI implications for today. Robots. Can't trust them. They might send your kids into outer space. So with that, do you have any other thoughts about this movie, like, that you're, I guess, going back to confidently controversial, that you feel like might be a little bit weird when we watch it now?
No, I have a lot of questions, but that's probably going to be answered by watching the movie. So I'm excited. Okay. And we'll see how they fuck these kids up and us.
Yeah, I think they do. I think we're going to see some, like, real 80s parenting. 80s, like, you know, the way teachers were with kids happening.
Cool.
So we're going to see, and we will... I guess we'll be back after we watch the movie. Maybe you guys can watch it too. I don't know. Like... Does that, maybe, if you guys want to. But either way, we will be back soon to talk more about Space Camp.
Confidently controversial. Confidently controversial.
Kim, stand by for Ohm's burn.
I don't know what that means.
I need you to stand by for Ohm's burn. And we have Ohm's burn.
Ohm's burn achieved.
Oh my god. This was a kid's movie. This was a horror movie.
I'm stressed out.
so stressed out.
I feel like I need to go like exert some of this energy because I feel like it's all like pent up. I feel like I might run out of oxygen at any moment.
Oh my God. It's very funny to me because when I was driving over here to do this, I was thinking about this because I knew this was going to be the movie. And I was like, oh, is this a bad choice? Because it's, this is like a kid's movie and there's probably like nothing crazy about it. It's going to be just like a normal movie. Like I couldn't really remember there being anything.
Being pretty light.
It being pretty light. And I was like, oh, we're going to watch it. It's just going to be like, yeah, that's a pretty good kid's movie. That was all right. I have so much more anxiety, and I can't believe that this is something that we watched a lot when I was a kid.
First of all, they say shed a lot in this movie.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I was too worried about them running out of oxygen.
That's true. Fair.
Oh my God. All right, so I don't even know where to begin. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess you begin at the beginning. Do we talk about these characters?
I think we have to. Okay, first of all, his name is Tom Skerritt.
Yes,
I believe I said James Skerritt.
I don't know what you said. Still the picket fences guy.
Pretty great, I gotta say. Although, we'll get into his character a little bit more because I got some problems. I got some issues with him.
Okay.
Then I want to talk about Mr. Tate Donovan.
Yes, Mr. Tate Donovan.
Who plays the male, like the young heartthrob male lead.
And did you notice in the beginning, too, and it was said, he was like billed as, and introducing Tate Donovan. So I feel like this was probably one of his first movies, too, and they felt like he was going to be something. They were pretty excited about it. Although I feel like he was doing like a Christopher Walken impression throughout the whole thing. He had some weird voices. I don't know.
Well, he had a lot weird going on because he's supposed to be a teenager. So ostensibly they're going to a summer camp program, but it is not I went to summer camp. I went to like Girl Scout camp when I was a kid.
Right. And we were young kids. But and I went to camp when I was in high school too. Like I went to basketball camp in high school. Okay.
And it was never like the level of seriousness that space camp is taken in this movie is insane. But the Tate Donovan character is like, oh, whatever, I don't care about anything because I'm just a cool guy. But he looks like he's like 35 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably...
He drives himself to camp.
There's a lot of older kids at this camp, but then there's, they're mostly teens, but then there's the Joaquin Phoenix character who's like 11 or something. Like, he's like a little kid.
He's a little kid. They let him hang out with the men in the, they're pretty much older teens. And then they have Joaquin Phoenix, who is probably... I think in real life, Joaquin Phoenix is probably about our age. We need to find out how old...
He was born in 1974.
Okay, so he's my sister's age. So he's a couple years older than we are. But he's like middle schooler, I would say. Like 8th grader in this movie.
Mm-hmm. He's a kid.
He's a kid. And he's like in these bunk rooms with these like 17-year-olds. And that's a little bit crazy to me. The whole thing is very crazy to me. So, okay, so we've talked about Tate Donovan, then you have Leah Thompson, who is the female lead in this.
Yes.
Is it Thomas or Thompson? Leah Thompson?
I think Thompson.
Okay.
But I don't know.
From Back to the Future. And what are your feelings towards her?
I mean, okay, so... She's clearly an overachiever in life. She flies to space camp in her, bi-engine plane or whatever they're called.
So she's also rich.
Yeah. Yes. I think the assumption would be that any kids going to space camp in this capacity probably have some money.
Yeah, I think that was why it was such a prize, because it was very expensive.
Yeah, it was probably...
They get a lot of clothes there. I mean...
Yeah, they have multiple outfits to wear on multiple days that all have the space camp logo on them.
Yeah.
So...
Including a full-on NASA astronaut jumpsuit.
Yeah, and polo shirts and T-shirts and hats. I mean, they're hooked up once they get to space camp. But yeah, so Leah Thompson, she flies in an airplane. I don't know what they're called. I
think it's an airplane.
An airplane to space camp, and she lands, 20 feet from where the other kids are. And she gets out and she has her little airplane earrings on. And, you know, we assume immediately that this is her dream.
Yes.
This is her life's passion.
She's all about this. And I think that's what they talk about a lot. Like, okay, so Kevin Donaldson, the Tate Donovan character, he's not interested.
He says his only goals in life are to sleep late, drive fast, and not take any of this shit seriously.
That's right.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. And then we have Tish, which is the Kelly Preston character.
Yes.
So cool. Every little bit of style that I ever wanted. A million watches on each arm.
She's an 80s queen. She's got that puffy big hair, and she's just very cool. But
she's like a genius.
Yeah, it's very much downplayed the fact that she has the eidetic memory.
Yeah.
So everything that she reads, she remembers. So really, she should be the star of the show because she has the most knowledge of everybody. Like, she knows Morse code. She knows all this stuff. She reads something once and remembers it forever.
Right.
And she's like, oh, it's kind of a pain. Like, it's kind of annoying.
I hate being this smart. Right. I really just want to do makeup.
Right.
And then you have, we have a black character,
yes.
Rudy.
Rudy, the best.
Rudy's the best. Now, the thing with Rudy is that he really he's smart.
Yes.
Yo, Rudy, why you be taking science? Because he likes science, Kim.
Mm-hmm. He likes
science. Mm-hmm. And he's into it.
Well, I think that was something I thought of kind of early on before we got into the stressful space part of things. I was thinking about that 80s vibe of smart not being cool.
Yes.
And that was very much a theme in like TV shows and movies of the time. You know, the nerd kids are the uncool kids. The smart kids are the uncool kids. We talked about this in the other movies we've watched. So I feel like this movie, definitely. So you had these kids who were misunderstood maybe in their other lives or whatever, but they all came to space camp and they found their people.
They found their people and they were very cool. And now earlier I was mentioning Hideo Takamine.
Yes.
So Hideo Takamine is who, like, that's how Kevin Donaldson gets to actually be with this group of kids, because he takes the place of a student named Hideo Takamine, who I guess at Space Camp they're like, oh, we don't care what happens to this kid now, just put him with another group.
Yeah, so because he wants to be in the same group as Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
And we come to find, I mean, this is the first sign that at Space Camp they don't really have a lot of rules or there's not much authority over these children, because they just kind of run free and do whatever they want.
They do. So we need to talk about the final character in the group, that, you know, in the group that's together, and that is of kids, we'll say, and that is the Joaquin Phoenix character, Max. So Max is a kid. Max, like, somehow knows, like, I don't know if it's that he's been going to space camp for his entire life,
right,
or that he's really smart or something, but he knows, like, all the higher-ups in this program. They're like, oh, Max, why are you here? You're not ready for this. It's like, oh, did someone not fill out this paperwork for him to sign him up for this camp?
Right.
Like, how did he get here otherwise?
There's very little mention of parents through this whole thing. These kids...
No, they have no parents.
They have no parents.
They have no parents. I think Kevin Donaldson has parents, and his dad wanted him to go to space camp, and that's the only thing we hear about.
Right, and Leah Thompson, she flies in a plane there with her dad. We assume her dad. But
Max is... Now, Max seems to have, like, a lot of working knowledge of this camp.
Sure.
And he just goes wherever he goes. The other thing that Max has is a friend. A very special friend.
Jinx.
Jinx is a robot, but it's, like, very 80s style robot. Like, it's all, like... I feel like it looks like every toy from
like
the 80s.
Or whatever those things were called.
Okay. Max is, they say in the beginning of this movie that this robot costs NASA $27 million. Yeah. They say that in this movie.
Okay.
And then, somehow, Max just hangs out with this robot. The robot's, like, in the bunk rooms with him.
Yeah, they just let the kid take the robot back to his room and hide him in his closet and stuff like that. And they fully, the supervisors or whatever they are of this program, fully see the robot in the room hanging out, and they don't bat an eyelash about it. They just don't care.
Right. We're gonna go back to Jinx and the whole robot thing, because it is terrifying and also, like... I just don't understand. But we need to talk about Kate Capshaw.
Okay. You have a lot of feelings for her.
Not for her, about her.
Sure.
I mean, first of all, I want to say from the start, and this has nothing to do, because I'm going to say a lot of things that are not so nice about this character, but she's beautiful.
She is beautiful, yes.
Like, with the dark hair, I mean, oh my gosh. She's just so beautiful in this movie. You know, good for you, Steven Spielberg. You really did well for yourself, so I'm really happy for you. I mean, you didn't have a lot going for you, and then you got Kate Capshaw, so...
Just the genius part.
Good for you. Good job. Okay, Kate Capshaw is she's trying to be... She wants to go to outer space. You find out in the beginning that she can't go. Someone else got picked instead of her. A dude, of course. So she instead has to work at space camp for the summer with her husband, who's like a mission control guy.
Yeah.
Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt.
James
Skerritt.
Thomas.
Mr. James Skerritt.
Mr. Skerritt. She does not want to be there. She's very clear about the fact that she does not enjoy anything about having to be there.
No.
And she is mean.
Yes, she is.
To these children.
She's all business. She doesn't want to spend her summer with these kids. She's supposed to be in space.
Right.
But I guess when you don't get to go to space, the backup is you have to teach kids about space.
Yeah, I guess so. You have nothing else to do. So go teach some kids about space. But, like, she takes it so seriously that I think, you know, I know when I was talking before we watched the movie, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't feel like I wanted to go to space camp, and I don't know why. I didn't want to be in the group. After watching this movie, I know why I didn't want to go to space camp. It's too much pressure.
I think it also might be why you're afraid to fly.
It's like, it's so much pressure. I can't even handle, like, so, like, the Kate Capshaw character is, we'll say, like, the camp counselor for these students. She's, like, the teacher for these guys. And it's like, she's teaching them how to do all the different roles that you would need and all the different things. She speaks in, like, this mean voice to them throughout. She's like, well, when you're out there in space, you're going to need to know how to do these things. And if you don't know how to do them, everybody here's dead.
Teamwork.
Right. And, like, she's just, every little thing, it's like, she's
agitated.
She's agitated, but she's like, it's like, what's on the line here?
Right.
What's on the line?
It's just
Why
supposed
do you
to be
care?
a camp.
Like, you're not supposed to care, but you obviously care a little bit.
Right.
Like, if you didn't care, chill out. God.
Well, I think that, you know, obviously, ultimately, it matters that she cared because she got these kids to do what they did, right?
Well, you need her because, okay, so we've kind of, is there anything else from the beginning part of the movie? So it's kind of like Kim was saying, it's two parts of the movie. The beginning part, they're at camp, they're learning their things, you learn about them.
Right.
And then...
And when they're not learning, it's a free-for-all. They can just do whatever they want.
Right. They leave camp. They're making out. There's, you know, the girls are hanging out in their bunk beds in their underwear. No one wears bras in this whole movie. No. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know what that costume designer was thinking. But then, so now let's go back to Jenks.
Okay. So Max and Jenks are friends. Friends
forever. So they're like, Max is hanging out with this robot, like, in the context of today, where we know about AI and it's a little bit creepy and scary. That's totally what happens here, is that you have this robot that
listens to everything you say.
Right. Takes it all very literally. Yes. At one point, he's going to go back and zap, like, electrocute the people that wronged Max. Like, remember that part?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, where are you going, Matt? Where are you going, Jinx? And he's like, I'm going to zap them. Like my robot.
I love it.
So it's like, he shouldn't be hanging out with this robot, first of all.
Right. This shouldn't be allowed at this camp. Like, the robot should be locked up and at night and things like that. Possibly plugged into charge. I don't know.
And then they just, like, it roams around. So at night, so what happens is that Max talks to the robot. It's like, I really want to go to space. When can I ever go to space? And the robot's like, I'm going to figure out how to get this kid into space. Plugs it just at night when no one's watching. Rolls into, you know, NASA headquarters. Mission Control. Plugs in to Mission Control and just starts talking to the NASA robot like, let's get my boy in space.
And the NASA robot's like, we can't. And Max is like, let me plug this thing in and make it so. And it happens.
Okay, so then now we're going to get to the second half of the movie, which is when everything goes. But this is when it turns into a real
and you
horror
might think to yourself, how did these children get into the position where they could possibly actually go into real space?
I would think that.
And it would be because as part of this camp, some lucky students get to sit on the actual space shuttle while they test the engines.
Right. And you know what? At this point, like I said, Hideo Takamine was supposed to be in that group.
Right. I think he would have done a better job.
He would have done a better job. But if I were Hideo Takamine, I'd be so upset. Like, they get to go on the spaceship. Why don't I get to go on the spaceship?
Yeah. I see what you mean. I see what you meant about that part, too. I like to believe they took turns, but at the same time, these kids just got that special treat. I don't know.
They got to be on a special bus driving over to the to NASA.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
These kids paid for an extra special package at space camp.
Seriously. So they get on, they're going on the spaceship to like launch, not to be launched, but just to test it out.
Yeah.
And then because of Jinx and his antics,
Right.
they get launched into outer space.
Right, because otherwise they're going to blow. If the people in mission control don't make the space shuttle actually go into space, instead they'll just blow up.
Right, yes. And I think that this is when the movie just gets so stressful.
Yes.
It's so stressful from like that point on when they get launched.
Well,
into
immediately
outer space.
Leah Thompson doesn't have a seat, and she's just like floating in this.
She
rogue
falls.
spaceship.
She gets like thrown to like a wall while they're going in outer space, and nobody in mission control is freaking out to the level that they should be.
They want to hide it from the president.
They act like they can hide it from the president.
And there's no mention.
He doesn't have to know.
There's no mention of ever calling their parents to let them know that their kids are in space.
No, not even up to
Not
the
even
end.
like a thing where they're just like, oh, maybe we should let someone else know.
No, the parents are not a part of this whatsoever. They're if Tom Skerritt truly believes, he's like, they'll be back in 12 hours. Why do we have to tell the president?
Right.
We don't have to tell the president. It's insanity that they're just like, okay, let's see if we can get these people.
Which also made me sad for that lady astronaut because Kate, is that her name?
Yeah.
Because she's never going to get the recognition she deserves if they don't tell the president.
Well, that was okay. So I also had a thought through, like, while this is going on, like, it would be so funny, or if it was real life, you know, where would these people be now? Like, this would be something like such a historical thing that happened.
Right.
That's talked about for years to come, about the time that the kids were sent into space and they had to figure out how to come back. And they did. These people would be on talk shows. They would be just like everywhere. But I guess the movie implies that no one's ever going to know about this.
I guess. I mean, they don't really give you much of a resolution to the movie. They basically land the ship and credits.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about what happened after. Don't worry about all the lawsuits.
You don't even get to know if, like, Kevin and main girl fall in love. It just, you know, there's no discussion of it. Come on.
Yes. That stuff is very scary to me. And then it's like, once they're in space, it's like thing after thing. They don't have oxygen.
Right. So it wasn't planned, this ship wasn't prepared to actually be in space, so it's going to run out of oxygen. And, like, they fully give you a countdown timer of the amount of oxygen they have, and that's quite disturbing.
Yeah, like, that's really bad. And then they go out and just then, like, Kate Capshaw's like, okay, we're by the space station. Let me go out and get some oxygen.
Right.
And they're like, okay, cool. Us kids will just stay here in the ship.
By
You
ourselves.
go ahead. Get out there. And she does. She can't get through because of her space helmet won't... Her uniform head. It's too big to get the thing. So they take the little kid, Joaquin Phoenix, and they're like, you go.
Well, he says I could fit. He's the one that had the idea first. He thinks because he's small, he could fit.
Yeah, but it's stupid because their helmets are exactly the same size.
It is.
They're wearing the same
spacesuit.
Yeah, the same spacesuit. So
But
none
whatever,
of it makes sense.
whatever.
They get the oxygen, and then you think everything's going to be okay. Well, no, it's not, because all of a sudden Max is hurtling through space. Kate Capshaw has to get him. Then you think, okay, we're good. She got him. We're going to hook up the oxygen. They do. They get some oxygen. The next thing you know, she puts something in the wrong tube and is blasted and smashes into a thing.
And she's back in space, then just floating around.
Right.
Oh, she's like tethered.
Pinned. Yeah, so then like Max has to get her, and then they mix the window to come back to space. It's
whatever
like,
that is.
I know. It's constant and it's relentless, and I can't believe, like, it really is like horror movie level anxiety.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
very anxiety producing movie.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it's interesting because I mean, there's not a lot of. I think it holds up pretty well because there's not a lot of graphics or CGI or anything like that.
And I kept trying to look at like how they made themselves look like they were in outer space, and I think like in certain shots you could tell the actors were kind of like moving.
Right.
And there's also like a point. Did you notice the part where they showed like the papers on a clipboard?
Yeah, they were like bent up.
And obviously some set designer made it so that they looked like they were
curled
bent
up. Mm-hmm.
But it still was okay. Like, it didn't take you out of the movie too much.
No. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Either.
So it was, I mean, it held up absolutely as a movie. I think the things that wouldn't be today, like if this movie was made today, the way that these young people are treated like they need to act like adults it's just not how we approach young people today.
No.
Like, you're allowed to be younger for longer, and I think that these, especially like these high school students who are going to this program, it's so serious. It's like, it's not even like it's a college program. They're not getting any sort of certification. They're literally going to a summer camp program, but it's like the weight of the world rests on, even before they go to outer space. It's like, you know, I mean, them going to outer space kind of justifies the fact that there was so much pressure. But if they hadn't gone to outer space, if they just did the regular camp the way they were supposed to, like, why were they why was Kate Capshaw, like, being so hard on these students? It's like, I might not even go, like, I'm just here for fun, man. This is my summer camp.
Be fun?
It's camp.
Right.
I want to learn about space because I like space.
But then I think about, you likened it, though, to your basketball camp or whatever. Wasn't that serious?
Well, Kim, a lot of feelings about basketball camp. Yeah, I guess so, because they would have, like, college recruiters and stuff.
Right, and you couldn't just not play the game well. You could not just practice hard.
Okay, you're right. There was a lot of pressure at basketball camp.
Let's break it open. Let's break it open.
I'm feeling that now.
I'm just saying,
a lot of anxiety at basketball camp.
Right, so I think maybe, that's what camps were meant to be.
Like job training? Like, this is my future.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Girl Scout camp wasn't like that, obviously.
I guess so. They are making connections with potential astronauts who are being okay.
Right. And that girl, she knows how to fly a plane. She wants to be a pilot. She wants to be a commander.
Yeah.
They're all sciencey, smart kids. So, yeah.
Okay.
Take it back.
Okay. But those adults were not supportive.
No, they shouldn't have been that shitty to them, I don't think. I mean,
no, they definitely shouldn't have been that shitty.
They should have realized it wasn't life or death, and it should have been a little fun.
Right. Well, and maybe this is my feelings of like, just let them be kids.
Sure. I'm sure they got to eat astronaut ice cream at some point.
I don't know. You didn't see me eat any food.
No.
I don't think you did see me. They chewed a lot of gum.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's all they had was gum. And I saw one eating a candy bar at one point, I think.
Oh, on the ship.
On the ship, they did.
Well, that was the interesting part, too. So, like, 5 kids and a woman, woman being sent into space. Nobody cries, nobody freaks out, nobody screams, nobody's real upset about it. They're just kind of like, oh no.
Tish kind of is, but she's the smartest one there,
right.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one gets that upset, even on the ground. Like, they're not, I don't know. Right. It's crazy to me. This is like a tragedy in the making that, like, the fact that they live, great. But, like, that was slim to none.
Yes,
that was
so many times
happen.
that they weren't possibly going to live.
Right. Like, they realized pretty quick they didn't have enough oxygen. They were just going to be like, they were just going to suffocate on there.
Oh, my God.
I know, it's terrifying, isn't it? It's too much. You know what else I thought of while watching it? So you have Joaquin Phoenix, who's friends with the robot. The robot is this, like, powerful AI that he's just allowed to like hang out with that like causes all this stuff. And then I was thinking it was interesting that Joaquin Phoenix was also in that movie Her.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's that powerful AI. And I really want to talk to Joaquin Phoenix and see if he thought about Space Camp, if he like hearkened back to it during Her.
If he thought about Jinx when he was making Her.
Did you think about Jinx? Jinx was your first AI friend.
Right. Wow,
I mean,
interesting.
Yeah, right? Like, I feel like Joaquin, if we ever make contact with you, call us. We want to talk about Space Camp with you. I mean, we were talking about how this movie did have cultural implications with kids. Like, I definitely think I never even knew about Space Camp until watching this movie.
Right.
So, I mean, that's definitely...
Well, and you think about now these initiatives to get kids involved in STEM.
Right.
And things like that. Like, it seems to me like it was very much the same thing, you know?
Right. They wanted... But like, it was surprising how many people, not just in the movie, but, like, even in real life, like, people really wanted to do it, were really into it. I wonder if they did have, like, too many kids wanting to be astronauts, like, because there can't be that many astronauts.
Do you know anybody that went to space camp?
No.
I don't either. I don't think. But I assume it would be a fun fact kind of thing that you would...
If anyone is listening to this...
That we kind of know.
Or even that we don't, like, but you went to space camp, I need to know about it. Like, I need to know if... Because after watching this movie, quite honestly, I would never want to go to space camp.
Hell no.
It seems terrible.
It does.
It really does seem terrible. But if you went to space camp, I want to know about it. I want to know about your experience with it and what you learned. Did you really take anything from it into the rest of your life?
Did you go there thinking that you would one day be an astronaut? Are you an astronaut now?
Yeah, like did it I mean, I guess would it look good on your resume, like going into college? Like, I went to space camp. It seems really nerdy.
but that's a good thing, Emily.
I guess. I mean, I guess we could... I mean, it still exists, so maybe we'll look it up. Maybe I'll send one of my kids to space camp just to see. Person be like, I don't want to go to space camp. I'm like, I'm going to go to space camp because I want to find out more about it.
She's like, it's terrible, Mom. It was the worst experience of my life.
Then she gets launched into space. I'm like, this is all my fault. I should have known. How could I not have seen this coming? Oh, my gosh. I feel like, going back and thinking of, you know, the confidently controversial thing. So, yeah, looking back on, thinking about our premise of confidently controversial, was there anything controversial in this movie that wouldn't pass muster today? Like, if this movie was being made today, what do you think they would change? I'm surprised they haven't made it today.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was too bad as far as most things. I mean, in the beginning, you do have the Tate Donovan character basically yell across the parking lot at his teacher that she has great boosters.
Right, which could be butt or boobs. We don't know. We don't know, but he's definitely hitting on the teacher.
Right. But other than that, I mean, and there's some questionable accents being done throughout the movie.
Questionable accents, for sure. I don't know if it would be for kids as much, because again, it is very stressful throughout, and I don't know that like they do that so much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's like for the whole end of the movie, it's pretty relentless in terms of...
Oh, for sure. Once that spaceship goes up, you're just kind of like, freaking out a little bit.
And then, of course, we had flashbacks to Mission to Mars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you think you can go to space, try riding Mission to Mars at Disney World, Epcot, and you'll know better. You'll know you can't.
Right, yeah. Well, I assume that that's like the thing in the beginning. We did talk about that before, where you see her go on that thing where she's spinning around and then it comes back again. She's got to like right the ship or whatever. Uh-huh. That seems ridiculous too. And wasn't Kate Capshaw mean in that whole part?
Yeah, she's mean throughout the whole thing. She doesn't really redeem herself either. That's why I thought they would all get off the spaceship and like hug and be excited and everything like that. And you would be like, okay, she's not that bad.
Right.
But,
no. Well, I think, like I said, I think that they kind of justify that she's that mean to people. So I don't think that they would have that in today's, because I do think that it is very, like, she is very anti-kid and anti-teenager. Like, I just don't think that they would have that character now. I think that you would have, adults are way more supportive of young people these days.
And I feel like if they redid it, they would probably do it with younger kids. Because I think that's, I don't know, I feel like that's, for kids' movies definitely have little kids in them.
Right, like you would have actual teenagers. Like none of those, the people who were supposed to be teenagers were...
Or actual like 12 and 13-year-olds, you know what I mean? Like very much like a Disney Channel vibe.
You think that that's what they would do if they did it again? They wouldn't do like high schoolers?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I feel like it would, to actually appeal to kids, I think that you'd probably go in that direction. Mm-hmm. So...
I guess they just thought it was okay to give kids like major anxiety back in the day. There was nothing wrong with that. So,
sure. So and it's clearly worked for Emily.
It clearly has. I'm afraid of space. I'm afraid of flying. This is hit on all of the
no things. Gyroscopes for you.
I'm afraid of Kate Capshaw. Like these are all the things that scare me. So overall, I would say great movie. I don't. I think it holds up.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't seem to be too problematic necessarily. But I do think that I don't know that would have the same vibe today.
No, like it would not be canceled.
No,
but it just would be like it's a little too scary.
Too much.
So you're like kids would definitely have bad dreams after watching this.
Yeah, or like, is this real kind of thing?
Right, like I don't want to get launched into outer space.
Right. Can this really happen?
Right. It's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. I also just was thinking about as we were watching, like I can't believe the whole this came out after the Challenger thing because it's like I don't think they would have even let it come out in this day and age. Mm-mm. Not now. Like if there had been a tragedy and then within a year you put out a movie like this where there's going to be another tragedy where young people are going to die, like no way. You've already traumatized the youth when they saw the Challenger explode. The youth. They didn't care about scarring the youth for life.
No. It was like, get back up on that horse.
Yeah, get back up on that spaceship and get out there into outer space because if you don't, the Russians will. And
right, you know what happens then.
We got to be tough here, okay? This is the 80s. Right. Get tough or else you're going to be speaking Russian pretty soon. Well, I think it was good.
I think it was good. I just want to say that at one point they referred to the Kevin character as completely unserious. And I would like a t-shirt that says that. That's my final note.
Yes. Well, okay. And I just want to say this movie, again, a lot of quotes that like me and my brother and sister would say, and I was reminded of, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what to do, which is funny because I say that a lot even now, like with my family, and they've not seen this movie.
Sure.
And I did not remember that it came from this movie until just seeing it now.
Okay.
So I was pretty excited for that one.
That's awesome.
So we had been ending we talked about ending the shows with something positive, and I was going to do that today, but then I thought about something that might be more fun. Okay, you know how there's like, was it 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 8 degrees of Kevin, 6 degrees? So many degrees of Kevin Bacon. Some degree. We have some degree of Kevin Bacon. Because we love James Spader.
Okay.
And we've talked about James. Like, I feel like he's going to be a running theme throughout this because, let's both be honest, I think James Spader is my 80s boyfriend.
He's the one.
He's the one. Like, if I have to pick one, he's the one.
Okay.
I want to figure out how we can do like a 6 degrees of James Spader, and can we connect how do we connect this movie to James Spader? And I see your mind working, Kim.
I'm thinking.
I see it starting to happen.
I'm thinking.
I know it's tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
We may have to like look
pause
something up. We're gonna make this happen. All right, we're gonna pause the movie. We're gonna pause the movie
because you don't want to hear the way our brains work.
Maybe you do. We're going to figure out how to connect James Spader to Space Camp. All right, we're back after doing some research. Well, the first thing I would say, because I looked at James Spader's IMDb page. Uh-huh. So you know how in Space Camp, Tish has an eidetic memory.
Yeah, eidetic.
Eidetic?
Right.
So does James Spader in real life.
No way.
He does. God, that guy.
What?
I know. So I learned that little fact. So
well, I found it. Okay, go ahead. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you a picture that I found.
James Spader was in the movie Lincoln, where Sally Field played Mary Todd Lincoln. Sally Field was in Steel Magnolias, where Tom Skerritt played her husband.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you. I'm quite pleased.
If it helps you, I did find a photo of James Spader with John Travolta, who was married to Kelly Preston, but I can't find the connection. I don't know why they were all together. I just can't tell. But you know.
Good. Okay. I think this is better than having a positive quote at the end of this movie. I think we have to like connect every single one because I think they all. I mean,
Oh yeah, how could they not?
all have
Sure.
to connect to James Spader.
Spader's boss.
Spader's boss. So with that note, this was a good one.
Yeah, good
always
choice,
fun.
Em.
Thank
Good
you.
choice.
Thank you. And next time you're going to choose.
I am.
And I can't wait to hear what it is.
Woohoo.
All right. Well, I guess until next time, stay confident.
Stay controversial?
No, don't.
Oh, don't be
be
controversial. I
controversial.
get it now. Okay.
I was going it back and forth.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Confidently controversial.